Hey, what's up, passionate DJs? If you're like me, you're probably spending a lot more time at home right now, maybe not on the road as much, doing the social distancing thing or self-quarantine. And so if you're finding yourself listening to a lot more episodes of the Passionate DJ podcast, for example, maybe you normally listen to the audio version, this would be a great time for you to follow the YouTube channel, because we do put together YouTube versions of every single podcast episode, put a little bit of effort into making those look nice. And so maybe you're at home now and this would be a good time for you to explore the YouTube channel. So even if you would prefer to listen, maybe you normally drive a lot and you would want to listen on the road, if you would go and just give us a subscribe and watch those videos on YouTube for the time being, it actually would really help out the channel and get those stats up, show the algorithm that people are watching us, and the more that we get those kind of numbers and stats up, the more cool stuff that we can continue to create, including episodes of the Passionate DJ podcast like this one. Now, with that being said, follow us at youtube.com/passionatedj, and then let's get on to some bad, hilarious, and awful DJ gig stories. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Passionate DJ podcast. I'm your host, David Michael, and this is the return of Bad DJ Gigs. Actually, this is the third part of a Bad DJ Gigs episode. This is something that has been part of Passionate DJ's story almost ever since the beginning. The very first Bad DJ Gigs episode was episode 17, and that was literally years ago. I think 2014 we did that one. And then we did the return of Bad DJ Gigs, episode 130, and now we're approaching episode 200. We're almost there, and so, a lot of people are having a lot of downtime right now, and I thought that, maybe it would be good to share some stories that might not make you feel so bad that you have to stay home. So some of these are going to be weird, scary stories. Usually they're kind of humorous. But these are just, some of the things that we run into as DJs. We like being able to bring those stories in and share them with each other and relate to them. And so I wanted to go ahead and dedicate this episode to some more bad DJ gigs. So I hope you enjoy. And the very first place I want to start actually is in the Passionate DJ community group on Facebook. Now, once again, if you want to join the conversation, you can do that by going to passionatedj.com/community. It'll forward you right to that group. You can join, and there's a lot of conversation, a lot of questions that get answered in there, a lot of talking about the actual individual episodes or pieces of content that we create. The one thing that we do ask is that you don't just spam your mixes or website or anything in there. We do have a one day a week thing called Fire Away Fridays that we dedicate specifically to that, so that we can all get it out of our system. So join us over there. But in any case, here are a couple stories submitted from members of the group. This one comes from Allison. It says, I showed up to DJ a wedding ceremony on the beach, and they said that they would have everything set up. When I arrived, the speakers were there, but no power cords or generator, and the nearest house was probably 500 meters away. I had to drive around the small town myself to find enough extension cords, and then go knock on the nearest house to ask them to use their power. Yikes. Needless to say, everything got plugged in within like 5 minutes to spare. Everything got plugged in with like 5 minutes to spare before the bride walked down the aisle. That was my last wedding gig. Yeah, Allison, I do not blame you. And I've actually run into that scenario before. It wasn't a wedding in my case. This was more of like an after party to a club night. But I showed up and it was like 3 a.m. and nothing was set up. And nobody seemed to be of sound mind to be able to help me get set up, and I just got a little frustrated and left. So a little bit different situation, but I feel your pain with, when you show up, you feel the sense of responsibility that, hey, I'm supposed to make the sound and music happen, and it's not, and it's kind of like nothing you can do about it. Thanks for sharing your story, Allison. This one comes from DJ Frankie J. I was DJing a wedding, another wedding story. We had just had the first dance. The bride leaves the dance floor to get a drink at her table. I announce that we need her for the father and daughter dance. I wait a few seconds, and she is still drinking. I make my way over there. I have background music playing. I get to the table, and she starts yelling at the top of her lungs at her parents and family table how they just showed up for the free alcohol and food. Cussing, yelling, and a lot more family drama was put out there. Everyone was in awe. I mentioned that it was time for the dad-daughter dance. She looked at her dad and says, "Are you ready to f***ing do this or what?" Wow. It was the longest dance ever, and the whole time everyone is leaving. By the time we finished that dance, and the mom and son dance, almost 3/4 of the guests had left. I DJ'd the rest of the night for about 30 people, and mostly 20 of them stayed outside smoking cigarettes back-to-back all night. So, basically, 10 people stayed inside and listened to me DJ and ate cake. Hashtag best wedding ever. Wow. Man, I can't imagine just the father and daughter just getting into it in the middle of what's supposed to be this super special magical night, and just you would want to shrivel up and die. It's giving me so much anxiety to think about it right now. The story comes in from Dan J. It says, I was hired by a young couple for a backyard wedding. I only took the job as a favor for the groom's uncle, who I knew from my day job. They liked hard rock and pretty much wanted nothing but Stone Temple Pilots, Rage Against the Machine, Metallica, etc. Now, we eventually met in the middle and decided to play more traditional wedding music, but no Macarena, chicken dance, etc. The bride's aunt got progressively drunker and drunker while repeatedly hounding me for the chicken dance. Her brother, that's the bride's dad, eventually confronted me, grabbed me by the tie, pulled me over my turntables while screaming at me to play the fucking chicken dance, you little shit. What? Where do these people come from? The groom and the bride's dad started a fist fight, and the cops had to calm things down. There were almost arrests. My big mistake was not getting my balance paid by the father at the beginning of the wedding. He refused to pay me, and the bride and groom ended up ripping open envelopes looking for cash to pay me. Ouch. How embarrassing. I hate weddings. By the way, I'm also the one that had you dropped a bomb on me / Timothy McVeigh story, which if you want to hear that story, you can go to passionatedj.com/130. That's the return of bad DJ gigs. Or you can go, if you're feeling really OG, you can go all the way back to passionatedj.com/017. Listen to one of our very first episodes, and the first in this series, Bad DJ Gigs. All right, so for the rest of our stories, actually in a little bit we're going to check in with Trip Turlington, who is also quarantined at home. He's going to tell us what he's been up to and then share a bad gig story of his own. But before we do all that, I want to play some clips for you, because what we've actually done is over the course of the past year, or maybe a little bit more than that, we've actually been collecting bad gig stories from special guests that we've had here in studio. So even though a lot of us are locked down right now, this episode can actually sort of act as a sort of time capsule, because we've already recorded a lot of either on-site, on location, or here in studio interviews with people, which we can't currently really do, but we can still bring them to you today because we've already been collecting them. So it kind of works out for today's episode. And this first story that I'm going to bring in that we recorded previously was from a good friend of the show, B-Funk. Brandon is his name. He came down from Northern Ohio, and he told us about another wedding gig that he's certainly never going to forget. So speaking of which, one of our favorite recurring series is the Bad DJ Gigs. I'm going to start trying to ask people as they come in if they have any. Do you have any bad DJ gig stories you want to share?
Dude, so I have...
He's been waiting for this one.
This one just...
I think you've probably submitted one before.
I submitted one about the...
you submitted a couple.
Two, I submitted
Two.
the Juicy J, where I had a direct support for Juicy J in the middle of March outdoors, and it was like 18 degrees, and I have a Serato mixer, the Rain 68,
okay, yeah.
And it froze. And so it was myself and another DJ. So the other DJ, we were going to mix together. He just ended up doing the whole set, and I was just like hyping him. But anyway, I've got a mobile
with gloves
DJ.
on.
Yeah, exactly. I've got this. This was last summer. So I'm doing a wedding. So I do roughly 20 weddings a year, so I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been in it for over 10 years.
That's a good pace.
Yeah. So I've really leaned into weddings. It pays well, allows me to get better equipment, which I can then practice on to then do the shows that I want to do or whatever. And it's fun. You can make,
that's where that 1,000 came from.
You make it fun. But anyway, I'm doing a wedding for a girl that I DJ'd one of her house parties at Palmer Fest, like 5 years
Palmer
before
Place,
this.
yeah.
So she's like, oh yeah, can you do my wedding? I'm like, absolutely. So I'm excited because when you do a gig for someone you're like, okay, I've got that connection.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay. So doing the wedding, and this guy comes up. He's probably 50, 60, and he's like, hey man, like, what do you got? And I, we hate that question, So it's like, what are you looking for? He's like, let me see. So he's looking through my Strat. I'm just like, what the hell? But I'm like, it's a wedding. We'll just let it slide by. He's like, hey, you got any 80s? And I'm like, yeah, of course I can play 80s for you. It's like, what about The Cure? He wanted to hear not Just Like Heaven. It was what's the other Cure song?
Love song.
Love Cats.
No, there's another one by The Cure. Oh shoot.
Let's Go to Bed.
No, it's. If it'll pop up, but not the super big ones, but I'm like,
okay,
yeah, like I'll see what I can do for you, man, because you always say that, I'll see what I can do, and then they go off, and then they might come back and like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Then you actually do play, but I had no intention of playing it because it didn't fit. I didn't know this song. And if I don't know this song, it's probably doesn't make sense for a general dance wedding. That's my go-to. Like unless it's the bride or groom requested it, I'm not going to go in that realm because you're going to lose the dance floor, and it's.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So. Goes by, this is probably 2 hours left in the wedding. He comes and he's sitting. Another hour goes by and he's sitting next to me, and he comes over and he's like, and I thought he was going to like thank me or ask me to say, he's like, hey, thanks for playing my song, ass. I'm like, whoa. He's like, you're the worst DJ ever. Like, what the He's like, you need to fight. I'm like, what? What the hell? Like, and this dude is like fired up, like ready to like fight. And this was really bad because it happened so quickly, and I like cut the music. It's like, what'd you just say? And like everybody stopped. It was a smaller wedding, so something. But like, he's like, what? You're gonna make this public? Like, no, you just made this public. And
it's like that stereotypical needle scratch.
Literally, it was like
someone kicked the jukebox. Yeah.
And then like eventually he comes over and he's like ready to fight me, and I knew the photographer. He comes like, no, and like he's telling me, he's like, no, Brandon, like he's fine. This guy is wasted. He came and just freaking jumped in his face, and they had to like escort this guy out of this wedding. It was crazy. Like I've never, I've had people like upset that I didn't play their song, which is fine. They're drunk and they're like, okay, and then they just like make a face and they leave. But this guy was like, he wanted to fight me.
Yeah, who's gonna step up at their friends or family members' wedding?
And then it crazy. It ended up being a friend of the groom's dad who like already had some issues going on or whatever. But like, and at that point, like, as soon as you do this and you cut the music, you realize like, oh, I f***ed up. This is their wedding. You don't make this. I should have just been like, whatever, and just let it slide. But like, it like cut me to my core. You
reacted.
Yeah, I like literally just reacted. So I was like, dude, I know what the f*** I'm doing. Like, you want a bullshit ass song, and then you don't get it. Like, well, no, you're not.
How old are
me.
you?
Yeah, exactly. And like, so he was like, oh, man, he like came running at me, and they had to stop him, and it began this huge thing, and then like the groom came and said, hey man, it's fine, and then everyone it being fine, but it was just like ridiculous.
Did you finish the gig?
Yeah, finished the gig. Everything was fine. They paid me. I said it was great. Like it was like it didn't even happen. But like I remember, I was like, man, that you don't respond like that. That you can't do that because people are gonna be like, dude, why did that DJ do that? They don't have any of the backstory. Whatever. They just know that I was like, what'd you say?
He was about to beat Mikey's
ass.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude, it was like, what?
Well, that's got to rattle you. I mean, that's not something you expect to run into at a wedding,
Absolutely
let alone at any DJ gig, really.
Over like a Cure request.
Yeah.
If it was like,
if it was Cherry
if
it was trance or something, it'd be completely different.
He's been listening to too much Cure.
Yeah, but like it like that was that was just ridiculous. I feel bad still because it's like I don't want to introduce that to that, but I just reacted. I was like, what? What'd you say? And like everyone just like stopped and was like, what's going on? And then he was just yelling across. It's probably where that heater is to here. And he's just like, oh, really? You're gonna make this public now? Da, da, da. I'm like, dude, you made this public when you came up and called me a fucking asshole, like literally yelling in my face. Like he was just going off. I was like, man, like. What is your life like outside of like parties and stuff like that?
You're berating a stranger.
Yeah, like that didn't play one song. Like I didn't. Anyway, that was probably, and that was last summer. That was not this past fall, but the fall before. And I was like, it just shocked me. So. You
ever had anybody step to you at a wedding, Mo?
No. I've had people get upset because I haven't played their song and stuff like that. For me, the thing I always am hyper vigilant about is the extremely inappropriate request.
Oh yeah.
Like when I told you the little 12-year-old girl asked me to play Cardi B at a breast cancer fundraiser. I was like, no.
I ain't doing that.
No.
Yeah,
Not today, Satan.
yeah. My policy, and I tell the bride and groom before, I'm like, because I'm open to requests. I always tell them like, hey, I'm always going to get requests that are weird. Like, hey, we remember on the football team, me and Tommy used to listen to like, Crazy Bitch by Buck Cherry or something. I'm like, hey, you go talk to Tommy, and then if he comes over and says, okay, then I'll play it, but I'm not going to play these crazy, because, there's always somebody that's like, hey, this is a joke or whatever, that's going to just, we know it, you can't even dance to it, it's just, we're not Crazy Bitch, an example of like a Slayer song, or like something that like is not danceable, but like somebody in the crowd may know, like, I'm sorry, like if you get the bride and groom to say yes, then thumbs up, but most of the time, like that's just not going to work.
And one of the things I learned to get me off the hook from a situation like that is someone gets like a really odd request and they're like adamant about you playing it. That's why I pick up the mic. Hey, Marcy from accounting wants to hear the Macarena. So here we go, everybody on the dance floor.
Exactly.
So that way, if it goes south, that's Marcy's ass, not mine.
That is.
This next story comes from Corrupt. He's out of Columbus, Ohio. This was a long time ago. It would be great to catch up with Corrupt, but he wanted to tell us a story about a massive windstorm and how that pretty much ruined his day, which is kind of crazy because the wind is actually really crazy outside my window right now, so this just feels appropriate. But in any case, this is Corrupt from Columbus.
I've had a lot of bad gigs, whether it be weather, marketing, lack of marketing, but those bad gigs also add fuel to the fire. They're motivating. You're like, I don't want to be here again, or I want to get to where I don't have to worry about this stuff.
I like that.
But there was one specific gig I remember. I was behind COSI in downtown Columbus doing a special event, and there was a big windstorm. And as I'm playing, everyone has taken shelter by this point. There's like 3 people in the crowd, and the stage just started falling apart, this massive stage, and I'm still playing, and I'm just, I haven't looked up in a while, and nobody told me that everyone left. And even the 3 people are just like slowly walking away, and they cut me off like, I would say halfway through my set, but my couple friends that were with me are just like, they're just laughing at me, and they're not helping the situation. But at the same time, there's nothing you can really do.
About how long ago would this have been?
Oh man, this had to have been like 5 years ago.
I was gonna say, was it before like Snapchat and Instagram Live? And
Yes, yeah. If there was evidence of this, I took it away.
It shows your true passion. No, you were still getting into what you were doing, not even realize what's going on in front of you.
Yeah, those opportunities at the time. I tried to take advantage for sure.
Now, this next story comes from DJ Axcess, and actually there's a couple of stories, but the first one involves somebody actually having a seizure during one of his gigs, and then he's going to tell another story where he accidentally played some explicit content during a soccer game. So DJ Axcess, great guest. We'd love to have him back on the show, but here's his story.
I'll share one with you off camera because it was at a private event. It was pretty recent and I would say pretty sensitive. Okay. So but it's a good story. Man, I'm trying to figure out.
It's okay if you don't have any. You can't.
No.
I
want to like. There's this really good story because I think there's a lot of knowledge that can be shared here. Maybe I'll just leave it obviously anonymous, but I was at a wedding. Maybe recently, maybe not so much, and someone actually started having a seizure on the dance floor, and it happens to be Epilepsy Awareness Month. I know the only reason I know that is because I overheard someone in line at Chipotle talking about it today. So I guess this is perfect. Ties in all over the place. But yeah, someone ended up having a seizure on my dance floor in the middle of an event, and so someone had come up to the DJ booth and said, "Hey, I need you to shut off the music now. Someone's having a seizure." So obviously cut music, cut lights, and we waited probably a good 15 minutes for that person to wake back up and come back to consciousness. And it's a scary moment. You're going from party mode to concern mode almost instantly. And
was the substance related, if I can ask?
No. Just someone who had epilepsy. My lights are
Just
doing crazy
epileptic.
stuff, and
Oh.
and that's what triggered it, obviously.
Wow.
So she knew. I guess her parents were there, so they knew this had happened before, and they called off the ambulance. They knew she was going to be fine, gave her some space, things like that. But
You did say wedding. I'm sorry. When I asked the substance thing, I had club in mind.
hey, you'd
Sorry.
be surprised, man. Some weddings get wild. But yeah, I just as a heads up to DJs, just be ready for that. If someone, a lot of times when someone comes up to the DJ booth and says "cut the music," your first reaction is, "What? No,
Yeah,
we're having a great
piss
time."
off.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here. But just kind of keep that in the back of your head that it could be something that's an emergency. So I really hope that the person, I'm trying to keep it as anonymous as possible. The person that, if they do listen to this, not offending them or anything, that's not the intention. But I think DJs need to hear about things that might happen, events that don't happen often. I've been DJing 11, 12 years, and that's never happened on my dance floor. So just be ready for that. Help out. I'll offer to help out any way you can, but kind of also realize that the more hands you have in that situation, the more shocking can be when that person wakes up. So what we did was we just had her parents kind of around her. We kind of moved everyone off to the side. Like I said, cut off all the lights, cut off all the music. And once she woke up, I started with very, very low, slow dance music, and then played some dance tracks, again, at maybe 25% volume. And then the father of the bride would come over and say, "Hey, I think we can bump it up a little bit." So I bump it up to 50%. And then maybe half an hour after she had woken up and kind of done her thing, we went back to full volume and had a pretty solid dance party given the circumstances.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just be ready for everything. Always keep your cool. No matter what happens, I've had instances where people have spilled drinks on speakers, and listen, it's already happened. The only thing you can control is your reaction. I hope that you probably talk about DJ contracts all the time in your Q&A on the show. So just know that you're covered, and in the moment, you need to be as professional as possible. Don't say anything that takes fault for yourself. Don't say anything that gives them fault. Just know that you have the contract, and you can take care of it after the fact. But the most important thing is not to lose your mind at the show, because I've seen that happen to other DJs, and that's the worst thing that you can do.
Officially, the line we say is protect yourself. Always use a contract.
Nice.
What about you ever have to break up any fights or deal with anybody that's ever gotten in your face, or promoter screwing you over, or maybe funny stories that would be like a bad gig, but looking back it was kind of funny?
Yeah, you'd think I'd have these ready to go.
You do so many gigs.
Yeah. Man. Oh, okay. So I dropped the F-bomb in the middle of a Columbus Crew SC set. And so we were out of, so typically the warm-ups is my high energy mode, and then we'll go through sponsorships, ads, announcements, things like that. Well, they got through announcements a little bit quicker than expected.
This was during a soccer game.
Yes, during a soccer game, sorry. And my spotter, who's got the connection to the marketing department, goes, "Hey, we cut announcements early. We need something high energy now." So I had basically a loop going on. So I basically hit search. I forget what I typed in, but I maybe went to my big room folder, and then I found the first track that wasn't labeled dirty, dragged it up, and I'm playing it. I had a little cue point that went to the build. And then, sure enough, it was "Let me see your effing hands," but not effing. And
not something that you could just kind of slide past and nobody would notice.
Right. And so I just look at my spotter, and I'm like, "Did you hear that?" He goes, "Oh yeah." And so we talked about how we were going to handle it, and so no one from marketing had actually heard. But again, advice to DJs: I actually went up after the game and said, "Hey, listen, I just want you to know that during that little transition period, I did drop the F-bomb. If any supporter or a fan comes up and complains, I take full responsibility. I'll write them an apology. It was just one of those things. I was in the moment. The track wasn't labeled correctly. And, I just want you to know that, that won't happen again. I'm making a Crew SC folder, which will have all clean music."
You got ahead of it.
Yeah. So, and the... someone who was part of the organization said, "Hey, if they didn't hear about it, you probably shouldn't say anything." But a lot of times with DJing, you can take a bad situation and turn it into a good situation. So that was one of those, because instead of them being mad about dropping an F-bomb, they realize mistakes happen. The mistakes happens up in the marketing booth as well. So she was just really appreciative that I let her know, and so she was ready if a supporter were to contact them and say, hey, my kid heard the F-bomb at one of your events, what's going on here. They were prepared for that, and now they trust me more than they ever did before, because then I'm willing to come with them at a problem with a problem ahead of time.
Now, our next clip actually comes from, there was a live event that Mo and I participated in a long time ago. It was called Live at Dayton Podfest. It was sort of a live podcasting sort of meetup type event in front of a live audience. And what we had actually done is talk to their sound engineer beforehand, and we did a pre-interview, and we started that episode with this pre-interview with, his name is Chris Heckman. Not a DJ, he's actually the sound engineer. He's running the soundboard, and he has a lot of experience running soundboards for, large-scale events and things. And so, very experienced sound technician, and we wanted to talk to him a little bit about, hey, you've been on the road a lot. You're well-traveled. You've been running sound for many years. What kind of stuff have you run into on the road as far as bad gigs? And so his bad gig story actually involves a German band that was touring in Czechoslovakia. So let's listen.
What's one of the most interesting incidents you've ever come across, like when it comes to setup and engineering and all that? Bad gig stories, like something you couldn't make up.
Absolutely. I have something that immediately comes to mind. And I was with this band called the Rubbermaids from Hamburg, Germany. The wall had just come down maybe 8 or 9 months before that. We went and toured in Czechoslovakia, and we went into eastern Czechoslovakia, and in the I believe it's the Tetra Mountains. Okay. And we went into this town where they had this board that was actually called a Tesla board, which was really interesting.
Did it have like big coils and everything?
Well, that's you would think. And so, but it wasn't XLR, it was MIDI DIN.
Ooh.
And none of it worked, and the people had to we had to like rewire everything to make it work. And the people in the town the Russian army was still there in the town, even though that they weren't technically in charge of Czechoslovakia anymore. They hadn't fully withdrawn yet. Okay. And so it was the first town. It was the first town. It's the first time that town's ever had a rock and roll band play there. Wow. And it was, so we had to like completely rebuild the system to make it even work.
Yeah. Welcome to capitalism.
But we did it. We did it, and the show was great, and the Russian soldiers were like dancing around, and the kids were taking their caps off and putting them on and dancing around with them, and it was an interesting spectacle for that was October 1990.
Okay.
So almost a year after the wall had come down.
Nice. So definitely something you can't make up or script.
No, and like I said, it was at first you get there and you go, this is crazy, I don't want any part of it, this stuff's crap. But then you go, well, wait a minute, I got to make this work because we don't have any stuff with us. Yeah. And so, and we did. Although I think there was only like 4 or 5 mics working that night. But
they had to partner up, Partridge Family style?
Nonetheless, we made the show work.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thanks for your...
All right, so this next clip comes from my friend Alex of the DJHookup.com. And this is just sort of actually a grab bag of little stories and memories about his time, both as a working DJ and for his many years working in the DJ industry. So this is, once again, Alex. I always butcher his last name. I'm going to say Alex Piatetsky. Sorry that I'm messing that up, Alex, but my heart's in the right place, from the DJHookup.com, and here are his stories. The other question I wanted to ask you is something I'm trying to ask everybody that we bring on the show so that we can compile them later, and that is, during your time as a DJ, did you have any bad DJ gigs or funny or worst DJ gig experiences that you would want to share with the audience?
I remember like in college, back when digital cameras were a thing, where that wasn't just part of your phone. I remember like one of the first parties that I threw, like the party itself was a huge success. But then someone like stole my camera right like from behind the decks while I was playing.
Yikes.
And that's like such a bummer when you like put so much of yourself into throwing this event and whatever, and then like you're the broke student and then someone steals from you on top of that. That's like, you know, those things leave like a bad taste in your mouth. You know, then like later on we're throwing events and like the headliner shows up like 6 hours late, and by some miracle, like some portion of the audience actually sticks around to like see it, but they basically like, ruined something that you've put like months into creating. So those are probably like the things that come to mind. I never got mugged. I never got the other negative thing that I remember is just essentially getting stiffed for money. Like there at some point there was I remember there was a party that I was throwing, like a recurring event, and I remember on our most successful night ever, it was a horrible arrangement. I mean, we had a cut of the bar, which very rarely is that worth it unless it's like a very big spot. And it was our most successful night ever, just people dancing nonstop, wall to wall the entire time. And at the end of the night, the owner hands me, I don't remember what the amount of money was, but it was like a comical amount of money. And I just go, "What's this?" And I don't mean what's this in like, I didn't mean it in like an aggressive, what the hell is this? I literally meant like, maybe you're just like rearranging something in the cash register and you're having me hold $40 or whatever you just gave me. And I remember he goes, "Well, that was our crowd. So like we figured like the full amount that we're supposed to pay you, like it essentially like it doesn't count because like that was our crowd," or some version of that. Wow. And I remember he was very drunk and he was very like touchy feely as he was saying all of this to me, like in the maybe if I would have stuck around enough and had a certain like sufficiently ignitable personality, like a fight could have transpired. But I just remember like taking his hand off of my shoulder. I took his like money and I was like, "Cool, we're never doing this again." So like those are the things that sting. But you know, on the flip side of that, you have some like epic like life-changing experiences where you're in that moment and you're like, "I can't believe I did this," or like, "This is like my achievement / accomplishment / contribution." Like I would attend this if it were someone else's and love it, but it's mine, and that's insane. So yeah, I mean, you gotta roll with the punches, I guess.
All right, we've got one more pre-recorded clip that I want to play you, and then we're going to have Trip Turlington call in and catch up with us. This one comes from MASIN. You remember he came and talked to us about the Up and Up Festival. We did a sort of two-part interview. One was here in studio, and then one was at the at Mask, which is now shut down, unfortunately. But we did a two-part interview, and while we were there, we wanted to make sure that we asked him about his bad gig stories, because at the time when we recorded, he had a lot of experience, but in a short amount of time. He had only been working as a DJ for a year or two, but had done so much in that time, and so we wanted to hear what he had to contribute there. And he told us about a moment where he had the dreaded moment of silence on stage. So this is a story from MASIN.
The closest thing I've never had like a horror story of a gig, and I guess I'm blessed to say that, because from what I've heard and just through my travels,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, right. I'm not
tempting fate here or anything.
Knock on some wood. But I'd say that the closest thing to was I played the Dayton to Daytona trip this past May, and they had Waka Flocka, Loud Luxury, and Cash Cash. So just three incredible acts, and it was a 4-day trip. And I was on the last day, and I was kind of like the student DJ coming up there to close out the trip. It was the last day of the trip, and that trip is something, because it is 5 days. They have unlimited beer. It's from like 1 to 3, and the Dayton students, they really just, it's after a full semester, they just finished their finals and everything. They fly down to Daytona, the juniors and seniors, and they kick back and they let loose. But by the 5th day, it's a struggle to get out of bed. You know, it's like
Sure.
It's very hard. So I'm playing the 5th day, and I got the nerves going. It's the biggest crowd I played for to that point, and I was on the CDJs again. So the last time I had played on the CDJs were at Lost King, so it had been a couple months. I was just nervous. I was with a couple of my buddies. I went down about 10 in the morning for a sound check. It was a beautiful stage right on the beach. The pool deck was an outdoor thing. It was really, really cool. And I was speaking to the DJ that Campus Vacations had, DJ Loki, who's an awesome guy, and he's an incredible talent too. Talking to him about just using the CDJs and everything. And we spent about 2 hours trying to sync my laptop up to the CDJs so I would be able to have the visual of my Serato.
Right.
And we just could not get it to work. It wouldn't read the driver. So after that, instead of using the time where I could be like running through my set a little bit and practicing, spent all this time using the computer trying to get it all set up. So come the time of the show, now I'm sweating. I'm like, I didn't really get to practice at all. I'm realizing that. So I normally don't really drink before shows, but I was super stressed and had a couple shots, and I go up to play. And the first thing that happens, I think it was my 3rd transition. I'm trying to like get acclimated, you know, getting used to the crowd and the feel of being up there. And I go to make a transition, and I switch my channel faders, and there's dead silence. There's absolutely no music. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I look down and I see the crossfader pushed to one side.
Okay.
And I'm like,
I feel like we've all done that.
My first thing. That's my first go-to. Always when music goes out is to look at the crossfader.
Yeah. And I was like a deer in headlights for a little bit. And low key came up. It was a couple seconds had passed, but like those seconds felt like eternity. It was
when you have thousands of people staring at you.
Yep.
Absolutely it does.
And you know, he brought the music back in. He just kind of pointed it out. I'm like, all right. So he got back to rolling, and the set really started picking up. The energy started getting there, and it went away. But I haven't really told many people this. Is that in Daytona, it was 95 degrees. You know, it's very hot, and I didn't really drink any water. So now I'm up there about halfway through the set, and I'm like playing. I'm trying to keep the energy high, and I feel what I had felt in the moment was like the oncoming of a heat stroke.
Oh my!
And
Oh, wow.
I like my body almost like went cold, and I thought, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it. So now as I'm like playing music in front of this crowd, I start thinking like, what's gonna happen if I pass out up here? Like, how is that
This
gonna be
is not the
received?
place I want this to happen.
Yeah, and
Wow.
for the rest of the time, I was just like battling off dehydration.
Yikes.
And I really do think it was the shots that I took, because you know it dehydrates you, alcohol and the sun and everything. And
Did you make it through?
I made it through. I made it through. You just kind of fed off
Man.
the crowd's energy. What I like to do, I like to give them energy, but right there, like in that moment during that set, they really pushed it to me, and they kept me going. So that was an incredible time, though. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Just being able to be there at the end. It was like the end of a journey almost with Dayton, and it was. I've had so many magical moments DJing. Such an amazing craft. I just advise everybody, like, if you have the opportunity, you got the passion for music, I would say go for it. Just pick it up. Even if you aren't that good to start, like even if you're just playing in your bedroom for yourself, like do it and push yourself, push those limits. I've had so many of the best experiences of my life just taking on these challenges and making the most of them. And yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and check in with Trip Turlington. He's going to call in from his own home studio. We're going to see how he's doing, how he's handling this whole quarantine situation, and then see if we can talk to him about a recent bad gig story that he experienced. So without further ado, let's talk to Trip.
You ready to jump straight into it, or?
Sure. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you handling all of this
nonsense. You holding up all right over there at the homestead?
Yeah, we're doing okay. You know, my job already, you know, is kind of geared for working remotely.
Yeah.
So really counting our blessings that, you know, Gina already worked from home and I'm able to work from home and all of that. So, you know, as far as all of that's concerned, you know, right now, you know, it's not impacting us as much as it is some other folks that are, you know, really feeling it already.
Yeah.
But you know, then as we all, you know, I think are anticipating that eventually this is going to have a downstream effect. I don't care how many trillions of dollars you throw at it, it's going to have a bump in our, or it's going to have a dip in our economy. So just trying to, you know, keep eyes on the horizon, but, you know, try to keep the ship sailing. So
how are you holding up, you know, mood wise? I know a lot of people are really struggling with just feeling kind of the cabin fever situation. Is that getting to you this early in the game?
Believe it or not, no.
No.
Like, you know, me and Gina were talking about it, and she was like, you know, she is kind of the busybody, you know, so she's a stay-at-home mom. She works, you know, remotely for a small company. And, you know, so, you know, she's got the lifestyle that, you know, she's able to run and do things and run errands and, you know, go shopping and, you know, do all of the things that we need done throughout a day, doctor's appointments and all of that kind of stuff. You know, so I think it's her that needs the, you know, that constant, you know,
right,
you know, movement and stuff like that. Whereas like, you know, no, this is home. Like I can plant roots in and you know,
right,
be fine. And we were joking around about it sometime last week where she was like, "This isn't driving you nuts." No, it's not. You mean I don't have to go anywhere? I get up and you know, I keep but I think part of it is that I keep a very regular schedule. Like I'm doing the exact same thing that I do when I go to work. You know, I get up same time. I get in a shower, get dressed for the day. I may not be putting on business casual stuff, but you know, at least I'm getting dressed for the day. I put on pants and shoes and socks and the whole 9 yards. And then, you know, I go downstairs, get my coffee off of the coffee pot that I set for 6 a.m., you know, and then I come into the studio, which I've, you know, done a little bit of changes to be more ergonomic and geared for working rather than just, you know, studio music writing and creative outlet and stuff like that. So just a couple of minor changes. Well, one major change and a couple of minor changes. So I ended up getting a new iMac, which is more the centerpiece of the studio. And then, but then I took the two 23-inch monitors that I already had and had one stand where they were like up and above. But when and that was fine as long as all I was doing was music stuff, because those are screens that you only look at every so often. But then when I was trying to work, and then I felt that, you know, I was doing this all day. So the back of the neck. So I bought a different stand that like puts the 23s on either side of the iMac.
Okay. Nice.
So it's so it's a lot more ergonomic. It's at eye level, you know, and all that. But,
yeah, I would say it hasn't been too bad here on that front either. The wife's getting a little antsy, which is funny because she is normally kind of a homebody, but I don't know if it's just now that you told me you can't, it's bothering me thing or what, but
right.
You know, I'm the kind of person that like once I start getting involved in a particular project that I'll really like hunker down and focus and obsess on it, and it won't bother me too much that I don't have any other obligations for a while.
Right.
I think the only reason it's getting to me a little bit is we sort of made an agreement with so my stepdaughter with her the other parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some immunocompromised people in our family.
Okay.
We've made a rule that like she's going to our house one Sunday and then she switches to the other house the next Sunday, but
if we have visitors or we, you know, if we kind of break that quarantine, then we're starting that clock over.
Right.
So like, there's got to be a damn good reason that we're we're doing that, because we're doing it at the expense of not being able to see Lily. So
right.
it's kind of set some accountability for us and gives us a, you know, so we've gotten a lot more serious over the past few days about like, you know, sorry, you know, sorry you can't come in, you know, kind of stuff, and not having people come over. And
yeah, no, that's for sure. You know, my wife, you know, she was a lot more. I would have said paranoid or anxious about it, you know, sooner than most other people were. But then we went to a conference for work, for my job, down in Nashville at the Gaylord, which, you know, for anybody who's listening, if you don't know about that hotel, the quick history is that there's like an original hotel that was there, and then at some point they built on top of it, like, so it's like this humongous, like several thousand room resort, but it's all encased in glass. So it's like, you know, yeah, huge glass dome, and then they've got all of these like plants from all over the world, and a river that's like got water that was sourced from like all over the world. So people like literally filled up boxes from like the River Jordan and you know, all of these, like, you know, all of these different places around the world, and then they brought it all there and created a river out of it, and then filter it through and all of that stuff. So all that to say, you know, encased in glass, it's 68, it's between 68 and 72 degrees all year round. The only way that they do that is with a gigantic air recirculation system. So, so you're talking several thousand people all in one spot. They're coming from all over the United States into this one place. So, you know, we were down there for that, and then everything kept escalating in the news. So then by the time we get back here, and then it's a thing, you know. So me and my team, we kind of looked at each other and we said, okay, so anybody who is in Nashville, we're gonna self quarantine, and that was on a Thursday, and then by Monday we were being told everybody is staying home. Like we're switching to a full remote thing. So that was thankfully 2 weeks ago. Haven't showed any symptoms or anything like that. So I think, you know, we're pretty much in the clear. So, but
that's good. The work thing is a little weird on our end because, you know, for Stace, like the real estate has been deemed essential, but also you can't really do open houses or like close in the same room, or like nobody wants to buy or sell. So it's
I saw a funny meme on Facebook. As a matter of fact, it might have even been you or Stacy that posted it. But it showed people in like full like hazmat suits, and it's saying people going to their closing like what? And they have their like these like suits.
It's crazy. Like inspectors and appraisers are, you know, rightfully refusing to go out and do stuff. So we're kind of at a standstill, and
right.
We're like, well, now's our time to make sure our print materials together, make sure the website's in order, you know, do all that maintenance stuff that maybe gets neglected in the normal hustle and bustle, because the leads and the Zillow calls and the web stuff is all just kind of dried up at the moment. So it's a little scary.
I'm telling you, like, I mean, and especially right now, like if this is a great time, regardless if it's business or personal, to really take a minute and reflect on, you know, what are those projects that you haven't been able to get done. You know, I've got a few of them. So obviously the big thing right now for all the DJs is, hey, whether you're a bedroom DJ or a world touring DJ, ain't nobody got any gigs right now, right?
That's right.
So literally everybody is running to Facebook and Twitch and all of that stuff. So I took the opportunity to kind of reorganize how I have everything up here on my shelves. So I'm able to fit at least two of the Denons plus the X1800 and a turntable all in a line now, and then just only one turntable is like, you know, on the side table in the corner. And then you know, I dug up some old nasty webcam, you know, like a Logitech C500, because I don't know what the run on webcams was about, but like literally you can't find any webcams anywhere.
Oh.
Trust me, I looked and I tried. But
well, if need be, I might be able to supply drop you one. I've got 2 external Logitechs.
Nice. So yeah, what I've been using is my MacBook as a second camera.
Okay.
And then, there's just this ancient thing that I mounted to the wall. And so I've got the right angles and stuff like that. Looked into that OBS software that you told me about. Yeah. That's working perfectly. The only thing that I'm having trouble with is I want to do timed scene switching. Apparently you can do automatic scene switching based on like whatever screen or application you have in focus. But like, no, I want it to every so often switch to a different scene, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I figured out hotkeys, but I was trying to play with Automator in Mac OS. Trying to play with that, but I haven't figured out the scripting on it yet. Like I know it's got a drag and drop, but like, so I'm not getting something right in the loop, like in the loop function. So yeah.
So already getting creative with discovering and exploring new things based on the amount of time you got at home, huh?
Oh yeah. Here's a good one. Like because I wanted to stream, but I wanted to be able to use a good audio interface to get clean audio out, right? But I have one audio interface, and it's over here because I use it for production. So the first time I tried to stream, I ended up having to put like a crate here up on the desk with my MacBook like kind of pointed at me, and then like a separate USB cable going over here, and I was like, that's not going to work. So I was looking for a cheap maybe used 2i2 or something like that, and I thought, no, there's got to be a better way. The X1800 has an audio card built into it. Like it is an interface in there, right? So I figured there's got to be a way to leverage that. So I hooked it up, and sure as all get out, the Mac sees it, and you can see, the audio moving, and when you go into the sound settings, but OBS wasn't picking it up. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So then I ended up I did some research on it, and I ended up getting some software called Looper, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
Or Relooper or something like that. But basically what it does is it takes the audio signals coming in from any USB and then allows you to rewire it to whatever your main output is.
Is it called Loopback?
That's it. Yep, Loopback. Thank you.
Tony and I both are registered users of Loopback, so that makes 3 of us.
Yep. Because what
comes in handy.
Yeah, what I found is that, so the record out left and right channels are channel 9 and 10 in the USB signal coming to Denon, but the Mac OBS will only look at channel 1 and 2. So, I went into the Denon X1800, and you can play with, the USB like channel settings.
Yeah.
On each individual channel and the master, but not the record out. So I was like, playing with it a bunch, and I was trying to get it to, I was trying to finagle it, trying not to spend the money, right? But eventually, I went ahead and got the Loopback, and then just routed channels 9 and 10 to 1 and 2, and bam, I was live. So
nice.
Yeah, that was a game changer there. So now it's just been, minor tweaking. I took another project that I did was I took my entire record box library, and I cleared everything out. Like I just totally started from scratch and reanalyzed all of my catalog, and then ran mixed in key over it, and so I did all of the things. Got all of put all of these cue points and loops and stuff like that. And
is it your intent to use Engine like Denon in its like most native form when you're at home, and then just if you go out to a gig, like try to export a record box USB?
Well, that's the problem, is that between Denon and Pioneer, they're separate services. They're not exactly going to want to play together. So that's exporting back So if I make any changes in the Denon setup, because I can, so like, for example, if I change, say, a loop or a cue point on a track, if I unplug my USB, bring it back over here and put it in and run it through the Prime software or the engine software, then it will notice those changes and say, hey, do you want to update the database over here?
Gotcha.
And keep those in sync. But they don't have a record box export. And since they don't have the record box export, there's no way to keep those two in sync without some software. Well, I found some software. I haven't played with it yet to see how intuitive it is. So that would be my intent is, before a gig, make sure that my record box is synced up the same as my Denon, and then be able to export out, another playlist or whatever out of record box, because nine times out of 10, I'm going to be playing on CDJs or something like, hardly anybody's got these things, around where we are. So,
man, it's, I can't tell if that's complicated or not.
Yeah. I think for me, like, once I figure out my workflow, I think my point of origin will be record box.
Okay.
Just because, when I play out, that will be, 95% of the time, 9 times out of 10, whatever, that will be the format that I'm playing on.
That's the one you want to make sure is correct.
Right. Exactly. So
I'm glad to hear that you're keeping busy. You're keeping in pretty good spirits. Everybody over there is pretty safe and healthy, and that's good to hear. And I also appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk today and catch up with the audience, and hopefully tell us a bad gig story. The last time that you were back, way back in the day when we were allowed to travel and hang out and do cool things, you came over here and were telling a story that was very recent that made my jaw about hit the floor. Now, I'm sure you're going to need to change some names to protect the guilty and
oh no, I'll drop his name, no problem. That's what I was actually just doing, was pulling up the news story.
So take us to, well, explain what the gig was, why you were there, and then just kind of take us to that night, take us to that moment. Tell us the story of what was going on. Describe the atmosphere and just what happened.
Well, look, man, when you do this stuff as long as I have, like, you're not really surprised by much, right? But this one actually did surprise me, only because, like, it was already not an uncomfortable, but it was just a weird intuition thing that just kind of got at me that night. So here in Ohio, you can conceal carry a firearm as long as you're licensed. And, so I've been licensed for a good while. And, usually when I go to a club or a gig, I don't ever carry, because the law says that you cannot carry into a bar or an establishment that serves alcohol if you will be drinking alcohol.
Right.
And, just as a matter of, habit, practice, social, etiquette, whatever, I like to drink when I'm around my friends in an environment like that. And it helps loosen me up a little bit for a gig. So the funny part is that you wouldn't expect what happened to be something that happens at a gig like this, because it was a gig for a buddy of mine that we've mentioned on the show a bunch. His name's Jason Brooks, DJ Naughty Groove. And he and I have been partners for years on a label collective type of thing that we've been working on for literally 20 plus years, called In the Groove, formerly known as Scrubbing Bubbles, but we changed the name to In the Groove.
Can I just pause? I'm going to pause right there. We've talked about Naughty Groove for years on this show. Will you just reach out to him and see if we can, even if we got to do it online, and we'll just schedule something and get him on this show?
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, every time I bring it up to him, he's like, "Yeah, just let me know."
There's no reason none of us have done it. We just haven't driven it home. So anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
No, that's fine. So Scrubbing Bubbles, we changed the name to In the Groove in 2000. So literally 20 years. Been working with this cat, and here in the last, I don't know, 6-8 months, maybe a year, he's been really working around the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, and establishing these small pockets of really in tune crowds. He calls this one particular night that he's doing, he calls it Progress. And the whole thing is based on like your progressive and trance music. So think things like, Bedrock and Juno Deep and so those types of like sound. And that's stuff that I played a lot, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so he hits me up and he goes, "Hey, you got enough to come out and play?" I was like, "Of course." So I'm going to this venue. It's called Mad Frog. It's been in Cincinnati. It's been in the scene for years, literally years. It's in a weird spot. It's on the UC campus, but there's a little rough element around there.
Sure.
It's not uncommon for the Mad Frog to get a scuffle here and there, but it's not a dangerous club by any means. It's not that kind of place.
You've all been to that club, one like that,
right?
The one we're talking about.
Yeah. Where every now and then there's a little bit of drama, but it's not, nobody's getting shot,
right.
Or at least you hope. So anyway, all that to say, so the whole going into this whole thing, it's a progressive night, a trance night. So the people that are, going to be coming to this thing, you're already expecting to be of a certain mindset, the more chill kind of crowd, people who are into, deeper, more melodic music, stuff like that. And, there's all kinds of people that are into that. But, when you're talking about like the Midwestern rave scene, there's a particular small community of people that you would expect to see at this. So get there, and I got there super early. Because I wanted to catch a buddy of mine, Tim. I wanted to catch his set. So anyway, something told me before I left to pack the heat that night. And I was just like, it was irking me, and I don't know why, but it was just one of those things where I was like, but if I do this, then I'm not going to be drinking.
I feel the need to clarify, just in case there's part of our international audience that doesn't understand both the context and that phrase. Trip was wearing a gun, which is normal in our country.
Right.
Back in the heat, that's what that means.
Yeah.
It was protected.
And it's concealed, so,
and is legally authorized to do all these things.
Exactly. So yeah, it was just irking me. Like, I was like, why is this in my head like that? But, so I just decided, okay, fine, I'm doing it, and get in the car and I go. And, so I'm standing there with Tim as he's playing, and I'm just sitting there, enjoying it. And then people are starting to come in and all of that. So some mutual friends came up, and, we're getting caught up, some people I haven't seen in a while, mostly because they're in Cincinnati, I'm in Dayton, and while we all interact on social media and stuff, but, to actually see each other in person, doesn't happen as often as any of us probably like. But yeah, so we're standing there and we're talking about like work and dogs and, just mundane, life stuff, we're a couple of guys, in our late 30s and early 40s, like, so we're just chatting about stuff.
Dad chat.
Right. And so Tim's playing, me and this other guy, Josh, are talking. And then a gentleman who came in, he comes up to us and he says, he gets super like uncomfortable close, like, you know, like for any Seinfeld fans, like close talker close, like, you know, like, I mean, he's like, you know, up in our stuff, and he's wearing a very heavy, you know, puffy kind of jacket and, you know, loose pants and stuff like that. And I was just like, you know, all right, well, neither one of us know this guy.
So about how many people in the room at this point?
Probably about 20.
Okay.
So not a whole lot. You know, but again, it's super early. Like, you know, so, I mean, you wouldn't expect there to be, you know, 100 people in this place, you know, before 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm like, you know, okay, so hi. Can I help you? And the guy like is basically he comes up to us to offer us drugs. I mean, there's, you know, he's like, y'all looking for ecstasy? Or are you looking for what else did he offer us? Xanax or like some sort of a painkiller, and like he rattled off a few different things, and we were like, no, that's not us. It's not our scene. We're good. And figured, you know, politely decline, you know, but you know, and he'll go on his way and we'll go on ours.
Which is what usually happens in a scenario like that.
Right. Yeah. So when we so then he asked us again, and we were like, no. And then he says, I got a strap. Do you want to hold it? Excuse me? So
say what?
Right. So yeah, this is only the beginning. It gets far stranger than this. So again, point of reference context. So a strap is is another name, or, you know, slang term for a firearm or a pistol.
So he felt the need to let you know that he was armed for whatever reason.
Correct. So immediately, you know, that okay, so I have to, like, you know, position myself in this little triangle here into a defensive stance, whereas my buddy, who normally is also carrying, but he's not this night, and so, but he's a shorter guy, but he's got some, you know, beef to him, so he, you know, and he's also got a very alpha persona, so he, you know, has no problem with like standing his ground. You are not, you know, blah blah blah, right? So so between the two of us, you know, I don't know if the guy was high on his own supply or what, but like then he like leans in and he's pointing at his eye, and then he's all like, I'm OG, you don't want to mess with me. And then he like just starts saying a bunch of stuff. I you know, hearing damage and stuff, I only caught like every third word or whatever, but I could tell that basically he was trying to make it known that he has a gun, he has drugs, we're not to fuck with him, and, you know, whatever, right? So it just becomes a very uncomfortable thing. Yeah. And then like suddenly, like, you know, Josh basically shuts the whole thing down. He's like, dude, we're not messing with you. It's not a thing. Like, we're just talking. You're good, you know, whatever. All the while, just before that, Tim was playing, and the guy like was talking to Tim, and he was like trying to get him to play something else. And Tim turns around and says, dude, it's not that kind of party. Leave me alone. like I was expecting to see like a full frontal, like,
yeah.
No requests.
I guess it's good that he didn't. I mean, this sounds like somebody who acts that way is clearly not stable for one reason or another, whether they're just, you know, mentally this is the way they are, or like you said, they're high on their own supply or something. I mean, clearly this guy, something's going on with him. So
right.
So he goes, he messes with you and Jason. He messes with Tim.
And Josh, yeah. So
and Josh,
yeah. So then like it's almost like he gets distracted, or he finally gets the hint and like, okay, walks away from us. So, you know, I've already got, you know, my piece like not unholstered, but like unsnapped. So if I have to grab it for any given reason, so, but then like we're all on high alert and watching him. Well, he goes over to the bar and gets a drink. And then when the bartender pushes the drink over, then he doesn't have the money for it. So, right.
Oh, geez.
So then she's like, you know, this becomes a thing between her and him where she's like, well, I'm not going to give you a drink. And so then like he tells her he's got a gun and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada.
Whoa.
So then, right. So then she just pushes the drink across and, you know, sorry, back up. Before that, when she told him, you know, I'm not going to just give you a free drink, then he walks all over the place, like goes from person to person asking for $3 to pay for the drink. So when he comes back to me and Josh and he's asking for $3 from us, dude, I don't have $3 cash. I'm not, you know, and Josh is like, nope. So like he gets a bunch of no's from our little clique that has congregated. By that time, there's like, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 of us like kind of congregating in this one area. And when we told him no, he looks at us and he goes,
so smacks his chest,
right,
kind of in like an alpha sort of like bring it on sort of gesture.
Yep. And so like then he's like kind of weaving around and, you know, kind of feeling around. And so I'm like, okay, you know,
jeez,
it's about to go down, right? So then the good thing is, so then he goes back to the bar, tells her he doesn't have the $3, but he's got a gun, blah, 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 blah. And then
now he's essentially robbed the place for a $7 drink or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So then she pushes the drink across. He takes the drink. He's just kind of, you know, trying to intermingle back into the crowd. Well, then she, you know, because she's not trying to have an altercation with somebody who is threatening her with a gun at the bar. So,
right.
So once he is out of, you know, her line, you know, once, you know, they've got a safe distance between them, she runs to go get the bouncer, who then comes and then like snatches the guy up and then throws him out.
Yikes.
So the crazy part is then the guy finds his way back in somehow. So we had to go get the bouncer again. So luckily, like, you know, I'm a very controlled person. You know, I was in the military. I've been around firearms. I'm trained. You know, I went through the state training for, you know, concealed carry, and I keep up on the laws and all of that stuff. And, you know, I have an incredible respect for human life. So like that is not a decision that I make, you know, lightly, you know, to carry it. But, you know, with the way the world is these days, you don't really know what you're going to get yourself into. That being a case in point. And I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what it is. It could have been intuition. It could have been anything. But like there was just something that night that told me you might actually need this. And, you know, so thankfully he didn't come back after the second time. But so around, I don't know, 5 or 6 o'clock the next morning, me and one of the guys that we were with, we keep, you know, approximately same hours because we both work, you know, jobs that require us to get up pretty early. So it was funny because, you know, I go to get up and get in the shower and I woke up to, you know, a news story, you know, from a Cincinnati news station. And he was all like, hey, this is pretty crazy. And I was like, what is this? And I click on the link, and sure as all get out, bam, the guy's face is like plastered all over the news. Oh, man. Because from Mad Frog, he walked across the parking lot, across the street, and then down Short Vine and went to a music venue there called Bogart's.
Right.
Bogart's. I don't know who was playing there, but apparently he hooked up with a couple of UC students there, told them that he had weed and drugs and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And those two idiots took him back to their dorm room.
Oh my God.
Where
Oh my
he
God.
then threatened them with a gun.
Of
and-
course he did.
Right. So, and like was
Yikes.
holding one of them hostage. Well, he was holding them both hostage in the room, saying, "You're going to let me sleep here or I'll kill you both," that sort of stuff. One of them, was able to get out while he was sleeping or something. Like the news story, it was a little vague on how the one got out. But then he went and called the cops. Well, then the cops come in and then they ended up tasing him. But it took them 2 hours to get him out. It took them 2 hours to get him out.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so out of all of that, then the guy ended up getting charged with a few misdemeanors. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you do all of that and only get away with misdemeanors? Like,
No kidding.
For those across the pond, a misdemeanor here is like a more minor crime, not like, our laws are broken down into misdemeanors and felonies are the really bad ones, rape, murder, blah, 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 and all of that. But the misdemeanors are more minor stuff. So, like, did he kill anybody? No, but I don't know. Holding people against their will at gunpoint? That's
something. Yeah, it's not a parking ticket.
Yeah, he didn't just roll a stop sign there. So
wow.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is, for multiple reasons, I'm really glad that you're safe and healthy today, Trip Turlington.
Yeah, ain't that the truth, man?
That's a hell of a story. I don't even know how to respond to that. I knew that I wouldn't be able to tell the story and do it justice. I knew that I needed to get you to retell that because you were telling it when you were here. It was after, I think we were recording that day, and like you just kept telling the story and it just kept getting crazier. And I'm like, why are we not recording this right now? What's happening?
Right? Well, and the funny part was, I think the look on you and Tony's face was best when I actually pulled up the news story. Like, here's the guy.
And here he is, yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff. You can't make this stuff up, you know?
No. And that's what Bad Gig Stories is all about, man.
That's right.
That's
right.
a perfect addition. Maybe not as funny of a story, maybe a little bit scary. I'm more glad that you're safe than anything. But
oh yeah, well it's definitely one of those things where you're concerned about. I mean, you're on high alert. It's an anxious thing that's happening in the moment. But you can look back and laugh at it now. Because I hope that whatever that guy has going on, I hope he finds help for it, because
you're here.
That's some scary stuff, for other people to be put into.
Got one last quarantine related question for you.
Yeah.
I know you have an Xbox now. Are you getting into gaming at all at this time at home?
Yeah. Well, not since the quarantine. I did start a while back. So, I'm really into Halo.
Nice. Good answer.
Yeah. I mean, the Halo 3 was probably like my most favorite game on the Xbox 360, ever. We used to have huge Halo parties where we had 2 Xbox 360s, and then we would get like 8 people to come over and everybody's drinking. We got 2 separate TVs going, all of that stuff. And, so when I got the Xbox One back on Black Friday, I found a really good Black Friday deal on one. And then I did the Game Pass. Well, it turns out that, I saw Halo 5 Guardians out there. I was all like, wow, this looks a lot like Halo 3. Like, maybe I'll like that. So I download it and done. I've downloaded other games. I've bought other games. I can't get off of it, man. I love it. Just
well, if you're a classic Halo fan, you should also check out. Sorry, my dog is Colin. My dog saw my wife arriving. If you're a classic Halo fan, check out the Master Chief Collection.
Okay.
It's really good. It's Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, and Reach. and it has the remastered versions of 1 and 2. So you can play through, if you want to play through all the old campaigns. They're nice, crispy, new textures and high resolution and good frame rate, and
Nice.
it's a whole new experience. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the one thing that I screwed up on is I saw Final Fantasy. Hey, I saw like a what do you call it? A Final Fantasy remix or something. But I saw the Roman numeral wrong, so it was Final Fantasy 8, and I downloaded it thinking it was Final Fantasy 7, and thought it was like some remake or remaster or something like that, and of course it wasn't. So now I'm sitting there, I'm like.
They did just come out with one for 7 for the demo, playable demo on the PlayStation. Yes.
Yeah.
A playable demo of the 7 remake, which I played through and is amazing. But I guess we're way off topic now. I could talk about that the rest of the night.
Yeah. So Geronimo Jackson on Xbox Live, but it's Geronimo, and the O between O and J, like the last O in Geronimo is actually a 0. But yeah, Geronimo Jackson.
And I'm Land Snark. So it's like Land Shark, the beer, but Snark with an N. Land Snark.
Funny you say that. Land Shark, the beer. When you say Land Shark, I think Saturday Night Live in the late 70s, early 80s. Like, not that was even my generation of Saturday Night Live. That was my mom's generation. And I'm just like, but like, that was such an iconic like skit, like Land Shark.
Well, yeah. But now's the time, I guess. That's my tag on Xbox Live, PSN, Steam, all the things. So go ahead and add us. We're home.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Depending on how long this thing goes, I might actually, once I get a few more of my organizational type products or projects done, then I'll probably have some more time and will be doing that. Gaming, though, like, because I love Halo so much, and that's the one I play so much. But I do like the new Mortal Kombat. I was playing the new Mortal Kombat. That like I'm not good at it, but I do.
Satisfying to play though.
Yeah.
It's crunchy.
But so I was playing Halo a lot, and Ellie, my 4-year-old, so she would see it, and she wants to play too, and all that stuff. So explaining to her that they're robots. They're not real people. They're just robots. And I think after the first week, and she's got the controller and she goes, I'm killing them. I was all like, and then Gina looks at me and she goes, yeah, see what you did? I'm all like, yeah, all right. So gaming in my house has been relegated to after 8 p.m. when Ellie's in bed.
I understand. I remember having to do the same thing for the same reason.
Yep. But I tried to explain to her, no, you're not killing them. You're breaking them. They're robots. They break. Right. They don't die.
They're causing them to malfunction.
She wasn't picking up what I was laying down, though.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk tonight. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're doing well over there. Take care of the family. If you want to jump on and do some more recording while you're here at home, we can do some more of these online things. I'm ready when you are.
Right.
Are you trying to fight me right now, like the guy at the bar hitting your chest?
Come at me, bro.
And thanks for sharing your story, buddy. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, take care, man.
All right, you too.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening to our third installment in the Bad DJ Gigs series. If you like this episode, please jump on that YouTube channel. Like I said, youtube.com/passionatedj. Maybe give this a like or a thumbs up. Hit that little notification bell. Give YouTube some kind of signal that you like this kind of episode. That way, both they know that you like us and we know what kind of content you like, and we know if we should make an episode 4 of Bad DJ Gigs. We would love to keep collecting them. This is one of our favorite kind of shows to do. So thank you so much. Stay safe out there and keep on spinning.